everybody, and welcome to Ladies of the PGS. I am your host, and of course, we have with us today Reina Creole. Reina, how are you today?
I am doing great, doing wonderful, and so glad to be here with you on Ladies of PGS.
Well, it's wonderful having you here, Lorena. And so much has been going on. I feels like the award ceremonies are coming back with a vengeance. We had the Golden Globes a few weeks ago, and the Golden Globes, all the winners, it felt pretty spread out. There were a lot of shows and movies that did very well. In fact, I don't think there was anybody who was necessarily any film or TV show that was untouched by a globe or two. I think there's a little golden touch with the globe. They just sprinkle a little bit of the love around with so many amazing performances, Lorena. I personally was just enjoyed it so much. And now we have, of course, these Oscar nominations that I wanted to talk to you about. Of course, you can't get away from them because people have been
Mhm.
speculating for months and months and months about who is going to be nominated for which Oscar in which movie. And certainly there's a lot of nominations, many that were obviously expected. Lorena, I don't know about you, but I totally was expecting Oppenheimer to be nominated for Oscars. What about you?
I did as well. I totally did as well. Oppenheimer seems to be the type of film that the Academy likes to nominate. Historical film about just a just his name and for what he did. And Oppenheimer. It has everything, or at least it seems to me, everything that an Oscar film should be. It's memorable, it's a sweeping saga, the visuals are amazing, the soundtrack is amazing. And it's one of those, I won't really call it a classic art house film, but it is full of cinematic art that is in it. So I'm not surprised it got nominated for an Oscar. I was hoping that it would be, especially given Robert Downey Jr.'s performance.
Yes. Yes, Lorena. Everybody is talking about how incredible Robert Downey Jr. was in this film, and certainly he was. And there were so many dramatic and interesting parts and layers to this film where a lot of it had to do with interesting characters. Whether or not very specific things took place, it doesn't even matter. Lorena, the film was so enjoyable to watch. The dramatization of it all, I think the performances by Robert Downey Jr., he stood his own. He had such
Mhm.
a powerful presence in a movie with so many people who were powerful in the acting field, and not easy to stand out in a movie like that. But certainly Robert did, and I think he is going to come out of this with so many accolades, but also awards when it comes to Oscar season. And certainly the visuals in Oppenheimer were amazing, Lorena. I just can't get over how great. Of course, everybody's talking about Cillian Murphy here with the picture of him there. Um,
Mhm.
the role, here it says that they got 13 nominations. And that is impressive. You're lucky to get one, but to get 13, Lorena, it was followed.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just unbelievable. And I think, the caliber of quality of films that were nominated this year, I think we've seen maybe the best we've seen in years.
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm assuming that they're nominated for Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Director, Best Movie, Best, sound, Best, all those things that we would expect to see in a film like this. And I don't think we're going to be disappointed. I think they're going to win a lot of them, Lorena. And I think all of us are expecting that. I'm not surprised by the nominations for that. I'm also not surprised by another film called Poor Things that was visually
Hmm.
amazing, Lorraine. I don't know if you've seen it. I haven't actually seen the film, but
I have not seen it. I have not heard about it.
mhm. Well, it's a beautiful film with incredible direction, incredible scenes. And the young lady who stars in the film, I believe she won a Golden Globe for her performance in the film. And I'm just going to bring it up just for a second, only because Poor Things is a close second when it comes to it's Emma Stone, who is the actress. Who is in Poor Things, and it's a fantastical movie that came out in 2003. It says it's a tale about the evolution of Bella Baxter, a young woman who is brought back to life by a scientist. And I'm just going to show you the little, just to see it a little bit, because it was nominated for
Mhm.
things. And I did just want to mention it because it, like Oppenheimer, although it's not quite as historically significant, Poor Things was visually amazing. There are these
Hmm.
amazing parts. Emma Stone's performance as this young woman was remarkable. It stars Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe, and it is amazing. There are just so many incredible visuals to it, and I did want to point it out because it's so visually pleasing. It just pushes the limits. Emma Stone,
Wow.
yeah, it's just so incredible looking. A lot of what happens in it, and these are just some of the shots from the film, but
Mhm.
whoever's imagination it was to make this film really, I think, has a lovely ability to think about the effect that cinematography has on people, the effect that points of view, visualization, the art, decoration, production design. This film
Mhm.
is a lot about that, and having actors who can give us performances that are over the top. And there, of course, I think was Mark Ruffalo. He won a Golden Globe.
Mhm.
I believe Emma Stone won one as well. But Lorena, this is another film where everybody who was nominated, I'm trying to get to just even one photo of it, and I couldn't there. Everyone who was in it really performed. It was their a top performance. That's the one I wanted. But when I go, okay, there it is. 11 Academy Award nominations, including, it should say including Best Picture. That's not what I wanted. I apologize, but my point is, Lorena, this is another film that I feel when we're looking at films, when we think about Oscar nominees, we're looking for something that's very avant-garde. We're looking for things that also have extraordinary meaning, can be quite profound. You mentioned Everything Anywhere All at Once was something like
Mhm.
that. This is not too dissimilar in regards to, let's say, impact. Perhaps it's not as popular with like the way Everything Everywhere All at Once was, but certainly Poor Things is a deserving film to be nominated. And I kind of wanted to touch on this theme. I want to look at a few more of these other films. Killers of the Flower Moon. Lorena, have you had a chance to see that one?
I have not. I have heard a lot about it though.
Hmm.
I've seen the trailer for it. The trailer looked really interesting.
Right. And of course, it is a film that stars three incredible actors: Leonardo DiCaprio, Lily Gladstone. She actually won a Golden Globe for Best Actress in Killers of the Flower Moon. It is a film that is about this land swindling deal that these guys tried to take from Native Americans, and they were successful in doing it in many circumstances. But the chemistry between Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, and Lily Gladstone is infectious. Like,
Hmm.
the three of them on there, like, even looking at this poster, regardless of what it's about, for me, I saw the film and it was an okay film. But to be honest with you, I want to see them in more movies together, whether it's Western, whether it's modern times. I haven't seen this much chemistry on screen in years, Lorena. And I think that that's the
Hmm.
type of stuff that happens when you see a film and it inspires you to start saying things like this. Like, I could see them in a Western together. I could see this. I could see them. You remember those westerns that our parents used to watch in the 1960s? And
Yeah.
you're like, what happens is like, oh, this person gets killed, and then they're gonna go raid this, and then like, is this somewhat more complex stories? I could see the three of them doing this, and that's the type of thing that I could see, or at least understand when it comes to Oscar nominated films. That's the kind of feeling that it does evoke in you when you
Hmm.
enjoy cinema, just like you and I do so much. Lorena, let me look at this list again, because I don't have the complete list, but of course, here it says Barbie, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon all scored
Mhm.
Best Picture noms. They were joined by Poor Things, American Fiction, which I've heard a lot about.
I
Um,
have to.
yeah, Anatomy of a Fall, which was the darling of, I believe, Cannes last year. The Holdovers, a movie about a boarding school teacher, Maestro, which was about a famous uh, composer, and I can't remember the composer's name, Past Lives and Zone of Interest. They talk about a lot of these, and certainly something to think about. But I think what's really interesting is that we did see, or we are seeing, this fantastic age of movies that did incredibly well. Lorraine, would you have ever guessed that we would have had movies last year that would have made $1 billion?
No, not considering, the track record before. It's like 1 billion? Nah, nah. So what a pleasant surprise.
It is a pleasant surprise. And I kind of thought about this for a little while because it became such an unusual year where we had movies that were making amounts that we often kind of joke about, but honestly I wasn't thinking would happen. And the first one that went into that realm was a movie called Super Mario Brothers that you and I both loved. I
Mhm.
think the film, it really caught my eye with that serenade in the beginning where Jack Black serenades,
Peaches. Oh, it's so funny. I loved it.
I remember walking into the theater and wondering, like, what is this? And then I realized what it was. It was he's in love with Peaches. Of course, he's always been in love with Peaches, but I
Mhm.
never thought that I would see a serenade. And honestly, it felt like he was serenading all of us. And I just thought it was very interesting because that really was like the last thing that I thought I would be seeing in this movie. It was a movie that, to be honest with you, um, fulfilled all my expectations for something that I wanted to see. Um, Certainly, Lorena, the craftsmanship and the ability and the talent of the people who went into making this film, it's undeniable. It's undeniable. We saw gameplay, right? I didn't think we were going to see gameplay, but we saw it. Like we could
Yeah, we did.
Mario hopping on by. We saw so many incredible things. It was enjoyable. If you're a fan, look at this. This is, oh, it's so much fun. Look at that. Just really, here he is there.
There's
It was,
Bowser.
yeah, just,
Oh, and all of the sounds from the video game. I knew that if they
yes.
didn't nail that, no one was going to pay attention. And whether you played the game as a kid or your kids that play now, everyone can just relate to this film. That's why it was so much fun and it made a ton of money.
It did make a ton of money, and I've watched the film several times. I've gone to the movies with friends several times to watch it. I've gone out for wine and cheese, and then gone to Super Mario, and then went out for more wine and cheese. Like there was a lot of that going on. And I think one thing it did show me was how much consideration they took for the fans of just even Nintendo in general, what one of the biggest game franchises and maybe perhaps oldest out there. They even mentioned Donkey Kong and Frogger, Lorena. That was the last thing I thought they would
Mm,
put in. Because sometimes when you watch a film and they put in your favorites, but they're not done nice.
yes.
Like
Hmm.
they kind of just sneak it in there and you're like, that sucked. Nothing in this film sucked. Everything in it was well thought out, well planned. When Princess Peach has to tell him, you have to practice. And I was like, what does that mean? And then I realized that he was going to, of course, exactly what we all do when we're playing the game. We had 3D
Hmm.
version, we had the 2D version. I think there was even the pixelated version, Lorena. They thought about all of us because right now on YouTube, as this video is running, there's somebody playing that pixelated version of Super Mario Brothers. There's some old school person who's like, we're gonna play some retro Super Mario, like. And I think that the fact that the fun of the game still exists and we can still kind of enjoy that is very interesting. But this was not the only film that made $1 billion. There was
Hmm.
another film that took everybody, by surprise by how much it made. And of course, that is the Barbie film. And it really was a very interesting situation. And I think part of what made it interesting was that the way it was advertised was nothing like what the film was about. Um, so I have to say that we had been getting a lot of that, Lorena. You and I talked about this.
Hmm.
Maybe for the first time in history, where so many films, like, their marketing was a little off and different, but this was very different. Like, this film really was a very different approach, maybe experiment. I even said it was like an experimental film. That
Hmm.
made $1.5 billion, still making money. I think that is also very interesting. And Oppenheimer, I personally believe, would have made $1 billion if it wasn't 3 hours long. Um,
I agree, yeah.
yeah, but what is my point of this? This film was also nominated for awards. But there are some people who are upset that it wasn't nominated for more awards. Now, to be nominated for even one award is an honor. It's an honor. And it's not easy to get nominated to these awards, but it's kind of hard to categorize this film into a category. A lot of people, like here it says comedy, fantasy, adventure. I saw it as a satire slash comedy. Some people did not see it as that way. It's really hard to place it, so it would be difficult to nominate this film for certain awards. But of course, like best actor, best actress, I could see things like that coming up. But what I
Mhm.
thought really was interesting was not the fact that it did get some nominations, I believe, but the notion of how upset people were, that it didn't get certain nominations. And nowhere else did I see a better explanation as to why, let's say, for the average person, it got the nominations it did. And as I said, you're very lucky to even get one nomination. So
Mhm.
and that you feel there should be more nominations, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to justify. I was impressed with Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg, who, as you know, we've watched her be one of the most successful comedians and dramatic actresses of all time. And
Mhm.
Lorraine, I remember in the '80s when Whoopi was making movies, solo films, on her own as a comedy, when no other woman was really doing that, Lorraine. Now it's commonplace. We see famous actresses or famous female comedians making
Mhm.
films, but Whoopi was doing it, and nobody else was doing it. Right? There was no one else. So,
Mhm.
I kind of wanted to get your opinion about what she's saying because, you know, people have all different opinions about who should win, but what I really liked
Mhm.
was what she says. Just very basic about, her comment was, um, everybody doesn't win. And, I thought that that was very interesting. Just because the film did make that much doesn't mean it's going to win an award. And for a long time, in the Grammys, there was a lot of this where there would be a record that was the best selling in the world, and they would
Right.
say, "Why didn't it win an award?" I'm like, "Well, maybe it was the best selling record in the world, but it doesn't mean that it's going to win an award." But I think, I really like this. Everybody doesn't win, you know. Here she said, Academy Awards don't hand out participation trophies.
Mhm.
Who has hosted the event and even won an Oscar, is an ex-Academy board member, was the calm voice in the room on Wednesday's episode of The View. She argued against the hysteria over perceived snubs in the aftermath of the 2024 nominations, most specifically director Greta Gerwig and the film star actress Margot Robbie. Does this mean that Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie did a poor job? No. No one is saying that. She said it's not the elites, it's the entire family of the Academy Awards who vote for the Best Picture noms. We all vote for Best Picture, everybody. She doesn't vote anymore. As you could see, she's no longer there.
Mhm.
Don't get everything you want to get, she added. Before Sunny Hostin said that she, however, did feel like it was a snub to leave filmmaker Ava DuVernay's origin out of the Oscars. Goldberg wasn't buying it. She says there are no snubs. That's what you have to keep in mind. Not everybody gets a prize. Movies are subjective. Movies you love may not be loved by the people who are voting. And I think that that's really very interesting too, Lorena, about the Academy and that they vote. Now, just between you and I, Lorena, you and I have known each other a long time. I did not believe that this movie, that Barbie, was going to even be nominated for an Oscar. This is just my belief. Is it a good
Mhm.
film? Like, did they work hard in the film? Were a lot of it, did people do well in the film? Yes. But I didn't think it was even going to be nominated for maybe production design. What did you think, Lorena, in regards to Barbie? It was nominated, but people are upset that the lead actress and Greta Gerwig were not nominated. What do you think?
I'll go back to what Whoopi said end of this article. The movies that you like are not always going to be the same movies that the voting members of the Academy likes. And that is very true because if you look historically, I'll take the case in point. Science fiction films. How much money did Star Wars A New Hope make? And it got snubbed in favor of Annie Hall. Okay. Do the Right Thing, all right, did not get nominated for an award, but Driving Miss Daisy did. People have to understand that the Academy Awards is not a popularity contest. The Academy Awards, think of it as, let's say, I hate to say this, but it's true because this is the age makeup of the Academy. Think about a bunch of old farts getting together. Like you go to the like say the Villages. Okay, the Villages are voting on the movies that they like the most and are going to give an award to. That is it. The Oscars are the Villages when you're looking at you're voting on movies. That's the best way that I
Oh
can
my
put
God.
it. So the old spry folks at the Villages think films like Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon. Barbie is not something that is on their list, or I would say for, at least not for like best picture or a best actress. No, I mean Margot Robbie, she's a fine enough actress, but compared to Ryan Gosling's performance, I can't say it's on the same level. I can't say it's even on the same level as Emily Blunt's performance in Oppenheimer. No, I don't see that. When it comes to directors, okay, Christopher Nolan is a much more well-known, well-producing director than, say, Greta Gerwig is. It's not saying that there's anything wrong with her. It's not. Let's just say the people in the Villages don't think that she is their particular cup of tea at this moment.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%, Lorena. And I think that a lot of people, unfortunately, have gotten, wound up and upset about it. And I don't think there is
Mhm.
anything to be upset about it. I wanted to
No.
mention, once again, this is Barbie's a very unique film. And while it's not in the same caliber as Everything Everywhere All at Once, at least with Everything
Mhm.
Everywhere All at Once, which was a film that I saw. It's not my favorite film, but it is a film that I feel deserves to win an award.
Likewise, I agree.
And I think if anything, we learned that it's not the easiest thing to create a film that's going to appeal to the masses. That's maybe the hardest part of filmmaking.
Mhm.
That's the first thing. And the second thing is, even if you have an idea that's going to appeal to all the masses, it's not the easiest thing to go ahead and execute this. So I think that even if Barbie did appeal to all the masses, unfortunately, it still would not be a film that a lot of people would nominate for an Academy Award. Now, that's okay. Just like you and I were talking about Super Mario Brothers a few minutes ago, and do I think that the film is valuable and incredible and enjoyable? Yes. I don't even know if it was nominated in the animation category. Maybe it was. Is it going to win Best Picture?
Mm-mm.
No. It's not. Did I enjoy the film tremendously? Yes. I loved Super Mario Brothers, and I think there are gonna be films that fall into the category of, well, I enjoyed it, but perhaps it's not the best choice for that, best director, best actress, that whole thing, going forward, and it's okay for a film to be like that. It's okay for a film to perform, and, it surpassed a lot of expectations. If anything, it does show us that sometimes, the popular choice isn't the one that's going to make the most money. Sometimes it can be something as abstract as this film, which I would consider Barbie a little bit abstract.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly, to even be recognized at all, I think just in general for Greta and for Margot Robbie, going out and promoting the film added to some of the fun and excitement. There was that huge Oppenheimer Barbie promotion that I never in a million years, Lorraine, I told you, I said, you can't put Barbie and Oppenheimer in the same caliber. And I wasn't necessarily that comfortable with promoting them. You remember the whole Barbenheimer? I was not a,
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean it's wrong, guys. It was one of the most successful movie campaigns of all time. But I wasn't necessarily, I didn't think that it was fair to place Oppenheimer story, let's say, even in a close category with Barbie. It's like I have a science background. I just was not that, like, I was like, I don't really think that that's a good fit. And yet people are wearing shirts and posters with Barbenheimer
Mm-hmm.
on it, like, so you just
Yeah.
never know when it comes to the people who do promotions and marketing did their job for both films. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, as I said, Oppenheimer would have hit, oh, maybe $2 billion even if there were more screens. People are still going to see it now. Oh, it's in 70 millimeter or whatever that thing is. People are buying tickets for it right now, Lorena, to see it because they enjoyed it, because it is an experience that they won't ever forget and haven't forgotten. I think that also says a lot about a lot of these Oscar nominations. Very interesting year for 2023, Lorena. Any other movies that you wanted to talk about? Since we're talking about different films, interesting films of the year that were on your mind, maybe, or that you heard were nominated, you're interested in, or anything that was grabbed your attention.
Hmm. Well, there's one that, while it is not nominated for Best Picture, while it is not nominated for Best Foreign Film, due to a lot of other things going on, Godzilla Minus One has been nominated for a visual effects Oscar. It is more than well deserved, and I so hope that film walks away with that VFX award. If I remember correctly, and Lou Wasserman's Ghost, don't get mad at me too much if I get this wrong, because I do believe that this is what he said. A science fiction film, or maybe I got that wrong. I was going to say something that hasn't, something where the last director, I think, that won an award for VFX, I think, was Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what the deal is.
All right, cool. We're,
I
we're,
probably
we're going with
completely
it.
screwed that up.
We're going with it. That's fine. That's totally fine. And of course, like, we're not being graded. There's no grades here. I understand what you're saying. And certainly I have heard nothing but good things about Godzilla Minus One. I've heard that it was the story. I know it has to do with someone, I think a man from World War II, and they took the time to tell an incredible story. And Godzilla's in this. I think Godzilla is a cultural icon, a worldwide. Now it's become more of a worldwide cultural icon. It is true that for in Japanese culture, Godzilla was incredibly important as let's say, anti-war, anti-nuclear war message. But now Godzilla has become kind of a respondent for all of us, Lorena. And I think, if anything, this film and its popularity, um, I'm so glad that it was nominated, as you said. I hope it wins that category too, Lorena. I've heard nothing but good things about it.
I hope they do. And I finally had to research this and figure, get this finally correct. Stanley Kubrick only won one Oscar for visual effects.
Okay.
So if the director for this film, and I can't believe I'm blank on his name, wins the visual effects Oscar, he
Uh-huh.
will be in very good company.
Takashi Yamazaki.
Takashi Yamazaki, yes, who actually screened Godzilla Minus One at Lucasfilm.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, he did.
Interesting. Well, I think it's something like this, like a film, as far as I'm concerned, that really has a very interesting message. And of course, a message that's our reality. You and I talked about this. We grew up, as nuclear weapons in the norm, like nuclear age. That's our norm.
Mhm.
But I always think that Godzilla is such a very important reminder of, let's say, when you want to think about the dangers associated with nuclear weapons and the cultural aspect of nuclear weapons and nuclear power being normative. Certainly Godzilla reminds us of so many things about that. I think we're very lucky that they keep making these incredible films. It came out first in Asia, and I think, then it says coming to cinemas December 19th. People have just been talking about how incredible the film is. Lorraine, I'm so glad you brought that up. And I'm so glad that we started to talk about these Oscar nominations and just kind of putting into perspective expectations when it comes to Oscar nominations.
Mhm.
All over the world, people always think about different things about the Oscars, but I also think it's important to put things in perspective about expectations for certain films, um, and just being happy with what certain films have achieved, versus creating unrealistic expectations, in a situation where it isn't warranted, as far as I'm concerned. But Lorena, thank you for joining me today for another episode of Ladies of the PGS. Of course, guys, we talked about the Oscar nominations. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Lorena, where can people find you?
Well, folks, you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Twitter, and of course, you can find me on YouTube for various videos and live streams, spicy pop culture and sci fi analysis. And of course, I keep it real when it comes to theme parks with my Stroll and Chill live streams. And as always, thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely, Lorena. And certainly, guys, remember, Lorena has boots on the ground when it comes to the parks. She actually goes to Universal, she goes to Disney. Guys, if you want to know what's going on in the parks, Lorena's channel is the one you want to watch. She actually goes to them. So keep that in mind, everybody. And of course, Lorena, thank you again for being here. Guys, you can find me on, of course, here on the Burnettwork, but you can also find me on Positive Fandom and my new channel, Roman Empire Matters. I want to thank everybody for watching, ladies of the PGS. We so appreciate you all and the support. And guys, remember, no matter where you are out there, always remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody.
Bye.